What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to another Pay-Per-Viewpoint edition of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast. WWE Hell in a Cell is happening already? Yeah, that's kind of weird. It usually happens in October, but a couple months later, here we are again. The red cage is coming back, even if it's really kind of looking like it doesn't need to be based off of this card. So we're going to give you a full breakdown of what has been announced so far, what is scheduled for the pay-per-view, our predictions on who's going to win these matches, and everything else that we're going to do here that we normally do. Who are we? Well, you should know by now, but if you don't, if you're brand new, hi, I'm Tony Mango, and I've got with me Callum Wiggins.
What a waste in copy and paste.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And Robert DeFelice.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep this to a minimum, so I'll say it here and only here. I remember when these matches used to mean something.
I've written up way too many Hell in a Cell doesn't mean anything anymore articles over the past couple of years. And would you look at that? It just kind of keeps getting worse.
It keeps getting, yeah, like, that's why I really want to just say it out front, because I'm sure people that listen to any wrestling podcast are tired of hearing it. But it is just so different from what Hell in a Cell was, even when they first started the pay-per-view, 12 years ago? Like, it's so different now.
There are currently two matches that are given that stipulation of the actual Hell in a Cell, gimmick. Obviously, these are all Hell in a Cell matches because they're all happening at Hell in a Cell, but not every one of them is happening inside the cage. And the two that are happening inside the cage, one of them, absolutely not. Just, there's no justification for it being inside Hell in a Cell. The other one, I mean, compared to the way that things have been going the past couple of years, you can make the argument that it makes more sense than some of the other things we've gotten, but it's a stretch, So this didn't need to be Hell in a Cell by any means whatsoever. And one of the only things I can imagine that they are doing this as Hell in a Cell is because it would be easier to set up without fans. You guys get that same kind of feeling?
I do, but I also feel like Hell in a Cell, because of the legacy it has, should be one of the events that fans are around for. This should be Extreme Rules.
Normally it would be. Actually, normally it would be Money in the Bank.
Grounds. This should be something that doesn't have, hey, everybody come watch Hell in a Cell again. I really think Hell in a Cell should be in front of people, but such is life. Here we are. Let's talk about it.
You in the same boat, Kel?
I'd say it's a mixture of the fact that it will be easy to set up without fans there, and also that the more recent Hell in a Cell matches are basically impossible to watch from the crowd anyway. Because the mesh, because it's bright red and the mesh is so tightly together that you realistically, to actually watch the match inside a Hell in a Cell anyway, you have to watch the monitors or watch the big screen in the arena anyway. So why not just, okay, we'll get this one over and done with, and then we can concentrate on the ones that fans can actually see.
Plus, they might actually, depending on how they plan on doing things, maybe we don't get Extreme Rules this year, or maybe they bump something else off the card, like, maybe not Payback and we get Extreme Rules instead. But there are rumblings that they are already planning on doing another Saudi Arabia show, and that might happen sometime around October or November, which that would be around the time frame that Hell in a Cell would have been taking place. So it wouldn't shock me if we end up getting, currently we know at least Money in the Bank's coming up next, then SummerSlam. This isn't counting takeover events and stuff either, too, by the way. And then it's kind of up in the air. They haven't announced anything beyond that point. Usually, Clash of Champions happens around September. Usually it's in October, it's Hell in a Cell. And then you got Survivor Series, and then you got TLC. But I don't know. Maybe they plan on just doing a Saudi thing in October, and maybe some other kind of like Payback or Extreme Rules or something. I don't know. But either way, we got Hell in a Cell, and we don't need it. And there's only 5 matches on the card, so it's even
Which will definitely increase by the time we get to the review show on Sunday.
It definitely will, because they need to have roughly 7 to 8 matches, and we're well past multiple years at this point of WWE being like, we don't have to announce anything until the day of the pay-per-view, because screw it, you'll watch it anyway, because it's the WWE pay-per-view, and we don't care, and we don't want to put any effort into anything. So that's not surprising at all, and it's just disappointing, because it means that this pay-per-view seems like it's worthless in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to maintain an optimistic output when we lay it out like that, but
it's true though, right? I mean, with the 5 matches that we have on the card, just to kind of quickly run through them, a feud that nobody cares about that's kind of embarrassing, a feud that is just randomly like, hey, Hell in a Cell because you beat up my kid and nobody expects it to go anywhere, 2 rematches, actually, well, most of it's rematches, for the women's titles that are just like, all right, I guess just do that again because it's easy. And then another rematch of, we had a bunch of other matches leading up to this point, and this is the end of the feud. So it's really kind of a 1-match card. And that match is something we've seen a couple times now. And it's just a means to end things. For the most part, if they produced a 30-minute special of McIntyre against Lashley and just went, that's it, it would serve the same purpose.
do you remember in 15, when they randomly had like an hour and a half network exclusive Elimination Chamber? That's something I think could be applicable here.
I don't remember that, no.
Yeah, that was the night that Kevin Owens beat John Cena.
Right, that was the one where
Ryback won the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah, because the IC title was on the line in the chamber, and that was Ambrose beating Rollins, but not really for the world title.
That was like just a network special and not Elimination Chamber pay-per-view?
Correct.
Yeah, that was the big, I don't want to say selling point of it, but the fact was that it was just a pay-per-view event. It was just
you could only get it on the network.
Yeah, you could only get it on the network. It wasn't available via pay-per-view.
So it's kind of like Smackville and the Shield's final chapter and that kind of crap?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, people actually cared about this to a degree.
Yeah, but it was decent.
Yeah, well, see, I wouldn't mind if they did stuff like that. I mean, I would rather them do stuff where they actually care and put the effort in, but I'd almost rather them do a 1-hour special with the 2 matches that matter on pay-per-views than to have like a 4-hour event where it's like, oh, come on, I don't need to watch this, And of course, you don't need to watch it. And, if you're following like Triple H's argument of, well, watch it all and like it all and don't have an opinion. And if you do, you're a bad fan, which I absolutely hate.
So I think that is a bull.
It is a what? You went all Transformer on us. We're losing Rob. Triple H has gotten to him. He pressed the button to make sure he killed Rob's internet connection, I guess. There we go.
Can you hear me now?
You might be back.
All right.
Maybe because I called him out.
I was saying it's an excuse that you see across all forms of entertainment because of the way that things are now, where it's, just choose what you want. And if you watch it, just like it. I don't subscribe to that. And I don't subscribe to the theory of, hey, well, if you don't like it, just don't watch. And you're not allowed to have an opinion. You should be able to have an opinion. Yes, to an extent, don't hate watch everything. But you should be able to have an opinion. I should be able to tell you this card is fucking irrelevant. Mm-hmm. We're not going to remember this card by the time TLC rolls around.
Yeah, I mean, I use food analogies all the time because it's something that everybody universally understands because everybody eats. But it's the same kind of mentality of saying, well, no matter what you order at a restaurant, whether they cook it the right way or they give you the right food, just shut up and eat it and like it. Which is just not how things work. You know, if I order a steak medium and they give it to me well done, I'm going to send it back and say you didn't cook it right. If I order a steak and you give me a hamburger and go, well, it's beef, I'm going to be like, yeah, well, I didn't order a burger, so give me my steak. And, you know, if somebody shows a pay-per-view that ends up looking as weak as this one does, and you're a fan of professional wrestling and sports entertainment and you want to enjoy the product more, and it seems kind of worthless, then you're going to go, well, if you're basically telling me watch it and like it and shut up, or don't, maybe that's why the ratings aren't all that great. You know? It's kind of self-explanatory. It is what it is. That's what we're breaking down here, though. So as we roll along here, we want to know what you guys have to say. So drop a comment below. Tell us your thoughts on the pay-per-view. Tell us your predictions. Who do you think is going to win? All the other kind of things we normally do here. And sorry about that. While you're doing that, particularly on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the join button, hit the subscribe button, ring that notification bell, hit the applause button, hit the share button to pass this along to other people that you think would be interested in checking this out. And that join button that I mentioned is the same thing as our Patreon. So if you want to be a part of the members only side of things, that is the alternative. It's either the YouTube members only or it's the Patreon. But even $1 goes a long way in helping us to just, you know, keep this thing going or to add more things to the mix. Like, for instance, I just about 15 minutes before we started recording bought a green screen. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that necessarily, but it's something that I've been wanting to do because I want to do more video content. And, you know, it seems kind of silly in some ways, but, you know, it was a lightning deal. It was like $40. So I was just like, you know what? All right, I'm going to put some of that money from whatever I get from the Patreon for this month to buying that. And then that way, hopefully in the future, we can do more video content. And I can just have, you know, some kind of a Smark Out Moment background behind me or something. That's how things work. Yeah. So it's also a morale thing as well. So if you want to make sure that you just kind of keep greasing the wheel and keeping things going, then consider donating to the Patreon or joining the members only side of the YouTube, or pick up some merch on TeePublic or Redbubble, or just clicking around, you know, seeing what's up, sharing things, liking things, all that stuff. And while I'm on the roll here, do the same thing for fanboysanonymous.com, the Blue Brand, the sister website. We got movie reviews, we got fan tracks, commentary stuff. We've got plenty of different fun things over there if you're interested in things that aren't just pro wrestling. But if you are, and you still just are like, well, I'm only into pro wrestling, check out the most recent fan tracks that we had done, which was the No Holds Barred fan tracks, because that's pro wrestling thing. So I do want to do more crossover things like that. Got some ideas in the pipeline that we'll get around to, so keep that in mind. Show support for that. Support for that supports this, and vice versa. So, you know, that's how you become an even more awesome person. You level up the more that you level up Smark Out Moment and Fanboys Anonymous. It's a win-win kind of scenario. Where do we start here? I guess the matches that haven't been announced yet, because we do only have 5. So we know we're getting at least a couple more, at least 2 more. And there's not a whole lot that I feel would be a guarantee. The only one I feel like is a guarantee is Cesaro versus Seth Rollins.
Yeah, why not add another rematch to this card?
Cesaro said as much in an interview 2 weeks ago. Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to beating him again at Hell in a Cell. And they still have yet to announce the match.
I'm just assuming that they're waiting to do that until SmackDown, because you got to save something for whatever, you know.
See, I kind of think that this match would have been a good one for Inside the Cage. Much better than the SmackDown offering.
Yeah, it makes a lot more sense than the Mysterio one, right?
Yeah.
It's still not worthy of a Hell in a Cell match, I think, because I remember Hell in a Cell when it's like, okay, these guys have had a buried alive match and a boiler room brawl and a casket match and a whatever, so let's put them inside Hell in a Cell. I think you need to go down multiple gimmicks before you get to that point, but it still would be more of a blood feud and whatever than the Universal title match. But it's happening. It's got to happen in some fashion here, right?
Yeah,
If they
I think
don't, and they do that whole thing where it's like, well, we're going to save it for the SmackDown afterward or something, it'll be like, come on, stop. Just stop it.
Yeah.
I'm sick of that, though. Like, I'm sick of the whole idea of, like, well, we only need 2 matches on the card that matters, and then we'll put one of the other ones on Raw, and we'll put one of the other ones on SmackDown, and then we'll do the other one afterward. And stop spreading yourself thin, you know?
That's how things work.
It should just be like...
I know you can complain about it as much as you can, and God knows we have on this podcast, but it's just how things work. You just have to get used to it.
It's just, I hate it, because it's like, I get doing some matches that are, like, I don't know, I guess my philosophy is, when did we start saying, okay, the TV doesn't matter because it just builds up to the pay-per-views, but the pay-per-views don't matter because they just build up to the TV, so none of it matters, so let's just spread it all thin and just be okay with wasting time. Time's the thing for me. Like, I don't want to watch 10 plus hours of TV a week and feel like WWE only had maybe 40 minutes worth of something that mattered, you know?
So AEW has been way more transparent about being like, the TV is our biggest source of income. The TV matters just as much, but we won't short you on the pay-per-views.
They do a much better job with that. It's not even comparable. Like, when they feel like they need to have a big match on some kind of a TV special, like the upcoming Fyter Fest, they'll give you a match that seems like it could be on a pay-per-view. And, they'll fill it with, like, filler. But the pay-per-views are at least, like, 3/4 of the matches feel like they're pay-per-view matches. Whereas WWE, it seems like it's like, well, that's the one match. And you'll watch it for that one match. Even if that one match isn't even, like... Realistically, the biggest selling point of this is just, hey, remember Hell in a Cell?
Yep.
And it's like, yeah, I remember when it was good. If I want to go watch one of the good ones, I'll go watch one of the other ones. Maybe I'll check out season 2 of Peacock or whatever the hell, because they don't want to put the years on these damn things. But, like, that's not... I don't know. It's a thing. But, like, that, for instance... is like, what bugs me is, why is AJ Styles and Omos not defending the Raw Tag Team Championship against the Viking Raiders? Oh, because they're going to do it on Raw.
No, we need something to announce for the bump, don't we?
I don't know. I think they're just going to do it on Raw.
Yeah, they probably will.
Well, they might. I mean, it's to the point now where I'm numb to that aspect of it, where it's like, okay, yeah, they're just going to do the IC title match on SmackDown instead of doing it at the show. They've been doing it well over a year now, so I'm used to it. It's just, they need to start scaling back the number of pay-per-views or restructure the length of them. That way we're not just sitting in front of the screen for 3 hours going, well, we know none of this matters, and they know that we know that none of this matters. It's that's the frustrating thing, is that they don't even try to hide it. They're just like, yeah, that we're just gonna do this, and shut up and watch it.
Yeah,
and then we do.
I wouldn't mind not having a pay-per-view. And just like, I mean, we've said it already about, like, none of these need to be Hell in a Cell matches, but, like, if you care more about the TV thing, then just do the Lashley and McIntyre match on Raw.
Do Hell in a Cell Raw or something, where it's like,
bump a rating.
Seems like it'd be more appropriate, because the SmackDown main event of this really feels like, well, the one guy is the biggest star we have, and how has the other guy not been in a Hell in a Cell match yet? Let's just check that bucket list off.
Has he really not?
He's not.
Really? After all these years? It wasn't even like some triple threat or something?
That is exactly why they're doing this match. That is exactly why they're doing this match.
And they haven't even made a big deal about that. That's
Well, they only made the match a week ago.
Yeah, so
But you would think
time this week going for the first time ever, Rey Mysterio will be entitled.
I don't feel like listening to the first time ever things anymore. But yeah, like Cesaro Rollins, that's probably on the card. The Raw tag title match, I don't think they're going to add to the card, but if they do, they're going to do the thing that Rob said where it's just like, hey, on the bump, we're going to announce that because you got to spread everything thin and you got to have 20 hours worth of C- material instead of 5 hours worth of B+. Because
as Paul Heyman said leading up to WrestleMania, WWE is a content creation conglomerate, and that's all that matters.
Once people got onto this train of using the word content just in media over the past couple of years, it's ruined so much. Because they're always just like, we're a content creation business, and it's all about content. It's like, content is just, soapbox moment. Content is a filler word. Everybody knows what content means. It's just stuff. Everybody does stuff. It's going, oh, well, the food business, they're just like a content business. Yeah. Food content. Every business has content, and media is just sort of like, yeah, well, we produce things for you to watch. Hours of watch material is what they really need to say instead of content, because they don't care about the actual content. They don't care about the quality, only the quantity. So just admit it. Just say we produce hours of watchable, even if it's unwatchable, material, and that's what what matters to you the most. Which, if they want to do that, we've been hearing about smaller pay-per-views. Do smaller pay-per-views. Oh, we gotta have more watch hours. Okay, well then, I don't know. Write better. Just do that whole thing, poking a stick. Do better. Do that. Another match that's like, it wouldn't matter. It's not gonna sell, but Hell in a Cell. But why aren't Natalya and Tamina defending the women's tag team titles against Dana Brooke and Mandy Rose? They're the only tag teams left, and they made it a point on Monday Night Raw to be like, well, we're basically number one contenders. Let's have our match at some point. It's probably going to happen on Raw.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah,
you got 3 hours a week to fill. You need to put stuff in there.
I'm just glad that they're trying with that division, because God knows they could just literally drop it off the face of the earth. Just a yes or no, because I realize we're already having a lot of filler on this podcast, but they basically fucked off with the 24/7 title, right?
Yeah, where has that been? The last thing we saw was Tozawa beats R-Truth. R-Truth says, I'm tired.
I told you that was the end, though. I said, he just said, I'm tired of this. Is that the end of the title? And I think it was.
That seems crazy that they would do that if that's the case, because R-Truth needs to be the last champion for that.
I don't know, just something I wanted to bring up just to see if you guys caught on to it as well.
It has been a couple weeks. Maybe they plan on doing something like when they've got the fans, maybe they think it's going to pop somebody, or I don't know, but it's kind of weird to think that might be the end of it. Somebody needs to ask that. Next time, there's a media scrum or something like that, just be like, yo, what's up with that 24/7 title? It's not like it really matters, but at the same time, what's up with it? Just tell us then, And then we'll get some kind of corporate speak answer of like, well, plans change, we just, we want to re-strategize, and, if you don't like the fact that the 24/7 title is not there anymore, then don't watch. Like it. We're not getting what I would assume would have been a triple threat for the United States Championship. Ricochet and Humberto Carrillo were fighting for the chance to fight Sheamus, but Sheamus has some kind of a broken nose or something, so I'm assuming that they're just waiting on that one. I don't think we're getting anything with the IC title either, but then again, what would they do for the IC title anyway? The same Fatal 4-Way that we just saw last month?
Now, in fairness, at this point, because they fought 10 times, Big E and Apollo inside Hell in a Cell would mean more than Roman Reigns and Rey
True.
Mysterio.
It's true.
Just saying.
I think if they do anything IC related, it will just be Apollo Crews versus Kevin Owens.
And how bland is that? Like, they're great, Crews and Owens. That's not a slight on them, but it's just there's no momentum. They fight, and then they go, they tell Corey Graves and Michael Cole to be like, sound excited when you say, oh, it's going to be Apollo Crews versus Kevin Owens. It's like, yeah, we know. Again, you're going to also be excited about Liv Morgan versus Carmella for the third week in a row. Actually, I shouldn't have said Corey Graves. I should have said Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee, I don't know if you guys have noticed this or not, but out of all the things you're supposed to be excited on with commentary, the one thing he's the most excited about is Rick Boogs. Like, it could be like, oh, Bianca Belaire is going to come out. She's going to have this segment with Bayley, or like Roman Reigns is going to be doing this or whatever like that. And it's just kind of like, yeah, okay, fake, whatever. But Rick Boogs comes out and he's just kind of like, fuck yeah, this is great. Again, I don't blame him. That's another match too. Shinsuke Nakamura versus King Corbin for the crown. King of the Ring crown. It's happening on SmackDown.
That one I don't mind as much because it is just for the crown, and it's
That's the type of match you do on that instead of the pay-per-view. But then again, when you have the pay-per-view coming up and you only have 5 matches, it goes, well, why don't you have that on the pay-per-view? If they just decide to throw on, I don't know, Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali, I'll be like, that's a Raw match. Come on. Like, I can't imagine anything else. I'm just thinking Cesaro and Rollins, and then either the Raw or women's tag titles, and that's going to be it. And maybe they add a pre-show match that's just a completely worthless pre-show match. Like, God, I can't even think of anything because my brain naturally doesn't think of how do I waste time. But like, looking at the roster right now, it's like maybe they just decide on the pre-show it's Lucha House Party against Mason T-Bar, even though they just had a thing on main event. They're just like, well, it's filler. Who cares? It's pre-show. Or it's Cedric against Jeff Hardy again, or Elias against Jackson Riker for a third time, where it's no countouts.
That's a match that should be in the settle because that means that Elias can't just walk out and get counted out again. And also because Riker, I assume that has some sort of war connotations for Riker. Maybe you can't actually put him in a cell. Maybe he'd go in some sort of like
Rikers Island,
post-traumatic syndrome or something like that.
Rikers
Island. God, dude, come on.
Book it. At least it seems like you care if that's the case, a Rikers Island match or something. Yeah. It's not like we're, we think that wrestling's above being dumb. Like, dumb wrestling is fun, Shit, my favorite character of all time is the guy who pretends that he's a dead man. Where it's just like, oh, well, the Undertaker's going to come back and he's going to shoot lightning, motherfucker. Well, speaking of that, let's talk about this hunk of garbage. Shayna Baszler and Alexa Bliss. We've said this a million times. I don't need to go down the rabbit hole too much, but somebody just really likes goofing around with the Thunderdome, and they're just like, let's just do that again. And with Bray Wyatt being gone, they just wanted Alexa Bliss to play that part just so they could keep doing the Bray Wyatt Fiend shit. This only exists because somebody finds it fun to monkey around with that type of character. There's no actual momentum. It's not leading anywhere. Baszler and Nia Jax already lost the tag titles, so it's not like the Bliss and Lily the Puppet thing, which would have been dumb as all hell, but it's not like they're going to win the tag titles because these aren't the champions anymore. It does nothing for Baszler. It's not going to do anything for Bliss. It's just there so they can fuck around with the screens.
So, to hell with the match for a second. I want to talk about the fact that they had an awful ending to Monday Night Raw and then kicked off the next week's episode with Bliss saying, well, now that we're going back on the road, I just kind of put her in timeout and ended that. What?
It's because they know they can't do the screens anymore, so they're
They
just like, let's just do this while we can, you know?
Respect them for retconning something that was received so poorly so quickly. But they literally just said, well, we're going back on the road, so fuck it.
I don't hate a character like this, by the way. And I think that Alexa Bliss is one of the best character workers that they have, but it's just so hollow, you know? There's a difference between The Undertaker and Relic from TNA. That's a name you probably haven't heard in a while, right?
Spelled backwards.
Yeah.
There's also a difference between the performers in those cases, and Mark Calloway, for whatever reason, was able to pull this character off for years, and Johnny the Bull Stamboli could not. Bliss is doing well in the role, but this is Bray Wyatt's character, down to the music, and they're just sort of like, Wyatt's gonna fuck off now. Where is he? What's happened there? I don't know.
Maybe he pops up in this match to kind of do something to distract Alexa, but I doubt it. I think it's just Bliss wins.
Also, Reginald is hypnotized. I assume that plays a role somehow.
I mean, we're concentrating mostly on the Alexa Bliss topic, and we can talk that bit to death. My bigger issue is the fact that less than 2 years ago, Shayna Baszler was like the biggest deal in NXT, and she was my favorite, probably wrestler in general. Definitely my favorite women's wrestler at that point in time, and she was killing women, and she looked so real when she was doing it, and she was just so primed to come up to the main roster and just sweep everyone aside and establish a foothold again, and just essentially just do the NXT thing that you did with her and just do it on Raw and see what happens. And then basically from the get-go, you have her debut, and she dominates in the Elimination Chamber, but you don't let her be a soon-to-be obviously pregnant woman and become the Raw Women's Champion, and then just leave her for months and months, eventually put her in a makeshift tag team because, that's funny. And then she's the losing part of that tag team because you can't have Nia Jax take pins because she's big and we need to protect her and she's related to The Rock in some fashion. And so we can't have her take pins, so she takes all the pins, then they lose the tag team titles, and now she's part of this comedy act where she is the furthest possible thing from being a realistic threat anymore, and yet we're still meant to, by her verbiage, meant to take her seriously as a physical threat. And this match is just going to be Shayna Baszler trying to be a physical threat, and she'll probably do the thing where she stomps on Alexa Bliss's arm, and Alexa will do the thing where she
turns her arm inside out.
Yeah, because she's got that flexibility.
Yeah, and then she laughs about it, and that scares and that freaks Shayna Baszler out, and Shayna Baszler takes a moment to compose herself outside the ring. Then
no.
Then lights start flickering all over the place. Giant, the lights go out. Alexa is replaced with a giant lily doll instead. Well, actually, no, there's a giant lily doll in the ring, and the lily doll attacks Shayna Baszler. The lily doll actually pins Shayna Baszler, and Alexa Bliss counts the pinfall instead for it, and that still counts Alexa Bliss winning the match. The doll takes its head off. It's Reginald. So that means Reginald that means that Reginald has pinned Shayna Baszler twice in like 3 weeks or anything like that, because Reginald is the star of the women's division. And so they dance around for a little while. Nia Jax comes out, she slips on a banana peel, she hurts her hole, and then we all go home utterly despondent and wanting to, why do we watch this shit anymore? That's basically.
It's really sad. That would be so much better than what we're probably going to get.
What's sad is the 75% of that is probably exactly what's going to happen. And
especially the whole part.
Maybe that, but it's like, this is ridiculous. This shouldn't be that easy to predict. Callum is right about Shayna Baszler. It baffles me that less than, what was it, 2 years ago, Ronda was main eventing WrestleMania, and we're still talking about, well, you got Shayna and the other two in NXT killing it. It's only a matter of time. And now 3 out of the 4 are gone, and the one that's left is doing comedy. How do you fuck this up? They're legitimate.
Because they did the whole thing where they went, we'll get around to it, but we have no plans on getting around to it. And we'll tell everybody that it's long-term storytelling, but that's really just our means to tell everybody, stop it until you forget about it. Because that's really all it is. Like, stop with the corporate speak. You want to tell long-term stories, but you don't have the patience and you don't have the, what's the word I'm thinking of? The self-restraint to actually pull it off. You get tired of things and plans change, quote unquote, where you just decide not to do something anymore. And then, because this is the mentality that Vince has, fuck it, move on, deal with it, forgive and forget kind of a thing. But that doesn't apply to everybody else. And you can't treat everybody else as having the same philosophy that you do. I'm somebody who's very sentimental, for instance. And, you know, like, if somebody made me a gift, I'd probably keep it forever because it's like, you know, oh, they made something for me or whatever. Other people would be like, this is trash and just toss it. In the same regard, despite the fact that I'm so sentimental, I think cards, like birthday cards, are a complete waste of money. I don't see the point in it. I toss them after I get them. I'm like, don't buy me cards for my birthday, you know, like that kind of thing. Everything's different. And when you have a philosophy of nothing matters because I'm always just thinking about moving forward, then whatever you're moving forward to doesn't matter either. And long-term storytelling is great if you can do long-term storytelling. But there's a big difference between what we assume is probably going to happen with Hangman Adam Page beating Kenny Omega versus, well, Rhea Ripley losing to Charlotte Flair is going to make sense in a couple months. Did that ever matter?
Well, just wait for it, because she's finally going to get that win back, it looks like.
I don't know. Let's move on to that match, because Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair could have been inside Hell in a Cell.
That's another one.
And it's not. It's just a match, which means it can have a count out, it can have a DQ, it can have some bullshit. I'm worried that Charlotte Flair wins it because they're just right before having fans back, and they, rightfully so in some regards, don't get me wrong, Charlotte Flair is great, but they just refuse to ever really budge on the idea that if it's not focused on her, that it shouldn't just be focused on her. And when she's not champion, they're basically saying, when are we putting the title on her? Wouldn't shock me at all if Charlotte wins this belt here. I'm rooting for Rhea Ripley, but you can't even follow a true, like, story with this either, because this has been revolving around Nikki Cross.
Yeah, I love the way that WWE prepares for pay-per-view matches by making both competitors in the match seem like absolute losers.
Yeah, what is up with this? She's not even in it to make it a triple threat.
No, so she's not involved in it. And realistically, it's on it's a masterstroke in ineptitude, in that not only do Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair look bad because they've basically just been spending the last month losing matches to Nikki Cross in a variety of fun and wacky scenarios, but then Nikki Cross doesn't look any good either because she doesn't actually beat any of the people in the matches. She just takes advantage of the fact that they're inept and they're distracted with each other all the time. The one good thing that this feud has done in the entire time that's been building up to it is they had one brawl at the end of Raw, well, during Raw, which was pretty physical, and it busted Charlotte open. And so it's like, okay, why didn't you just, do stuff like that for like 3 or 4 weeks instead? Instead, you had to do oh, I can beat Nikki Cross in 2 minutes. Well, oh no, you couldn't do that. Well, I can beat Nikki Cross in 2 minutes. Oh no, I can't because I'm too busy looking at you, even though you're not involved in this at all. Like, why are you there? Why? But yeah, it's just, yeah, it's really, really poorly put together. It makes you completely uninterested in seeing the match. I mean, to be fair, it doesn't. It doesn't take a lot for me to be uninterested in this match because Rhea Ripley has been an absolute god awful champion, and I think Sean Ross Sapp says it best when he was doing these post Raw commentary where he's talking about the fact that Rhea Ripley is essentially the troll face, the troll meme brought to life now, because that's all she does when she's looking on the camera is just like do the troll face and then say some really inane and boring shit in a promo that can't get you in any way excited to see her compete at all. Again, it's the same with Shayna Baszler. They've taken exactly the recipe from what she was supposed to do, what got her over in NXT so big, and just said, yeah, not doing that because we didn't do it, and so we have to do a different way of doing it, and it's always better when it's almost always worse. And
very few people are ever better on the main roster, it seems. Bliss being one of them.
So I can't realistically say that I'm excited for this match, other than the fact that I just think it'll be good because of the two people involved, and they've had good chemistry in the past in matches they've had. So I can only assume that this will follow suit and it will be a good match. I honestly, it's kind of a coin flip about who wins, because at the moment it feels like this doesn't actually really matter, because now they've got a shiny new toy in the women's division in Eva Marie and Dewdrop, or whatever her name's going to end up eventually being. And yeah, so I think that really this is actually a holding pattern to when Eva Marie eventually wins the title, but that could be several months down the line now. So I think they'll just stick with Rhea Ripley and eventually, because it's weird, because like, where's the direction past this point is probably my bigger issue about who's going to win or not. Because is it Alexa Bliss? Does she move up to the women's division, women's title after dealing with the Shayna Baszler and Nia Jackson Reginald, or is they're doing the long term thing with Eva Marie and eventually going to have her win the women's title of actually having to win the women's title, or is that based around the tag team titles? And at the end of the day, they don't know, and so we don't know either. So I'm just going to say, yeah, just stick it with Rhea Ripley for now, and then decide if you're going to give it to Charlotte Flair, give it to her next month or SummerSlam or something.
See, I'm worried about the potential that their game plan is, we'll put the belt on Flair, and then that way we'll spend a couple weeks with Flair being like, I told you I'd win the championship and blah, 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 blah. And then since Money in the Bank's going to have people that they're going to be like, it's been a year since we've seen Becky Lynch, and now she's back, and she's going to be the savior. The man's back, and she's going to take the belt from Charlotte Flair. And then that way we can do Charlotte versus Becky, and everybody's going nuts because Becky's back. Rhea Ripley's going to just wait on the sidelines, and then we'll do a triple threat between the three of them at SummerSlam.
I mean, let's just take that hypothetical real quick and say nothing involving Becky Lynch at this point is going to get a negative reaction from me, because Becky, even though I'm sure it's waned a lot because, short-term memory and all that, Becky's an actual star.
Yeah, and that's not a slight on Becky, by the way. Like, I want Becky back.
No, I understand what you were saying. It's just, like, that would be great because Becky's great. They have killed Rhea Ripley for me. They have killed Rhea Ripley. And I said this going into Backlash, but it's even more so now. When Ripley's on TV, I kind of don't pay attention. Because it's like she's doing the same shtick every week, and it's literally just, well, you're supposed to like me because I'm a girl from NXT, and that's the mistake they make with all the NXT people. They go, well, it's the person from NXT doing our dumb shit. Aren't you happy? Like, it sucks. Selfishly, for my fantasy league team, I want Charlotte to win. I don't think Charlotte will win, but you can never count Charlotte out. That being said, I'll play it safe with my brain and go Rhea Ripley retains. But if Charlotte wins, I would not be surprised in the slightest.
I keep saying Rhea Ripley's going to retain, and I keep saying I'm saying that knowing I don't think it's going to happen. Like, it's, it's self-defeating. I think I can't go against Rhea Ripley from my brain, but my heart's telling me, dude, come on. It's Charlotte. She's winning. They do this all the time. She needs to get closer to that 16-time title reign. They love putting the belt on her for a couple weeks at a time. They're going to want to do something for Money in the Bank. And you would think then maybe Charlotte Flair wins Money in the Bank, and maybe it's the whole, like, I'm the opportunity, and I want to win this briefcase because that's an opportunity for a championship at any time. And then that would give her the ability to potentially go over to SmackDown and do something with Bianca, which would be a little bit different, because that's logical. But because it's logical, it's kind of like, well, they're probably thinking, yeah, but if we put the belt on Flair, then Rhea Ripley can be in the Money in the Bank match. And then you go, yeah, but is she going to win it? And they go, well, no, but then it becomes like, again, to use another food analogy, if you replace things over and over again, ship of Theseus kind of argument. But this is something I've mentioned to Rob the other day. I'm like, if you order a pizza and somebody gives you grilled cheese with tomatoes on it, and they say, well, it's basically the same thing. It's not.
That popped me.
And them going, well, we'll put the belt on Flair, and then Ripley can be in the briefcase match, but she won't win the briefcase, but that'll be good enough because she's in it. And it'll be like, well, is that the same philosophy you're going to apply to all the other ones? Does Carmella and Liv and whoever else, Naomi, Eva Marie, blah, 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 do they all have the same level as Ripley? And they go, no. And then you go, well, okay, well, then that just defeats your whole argument. So I'm fully expecting Flair wins this belt. But I'm going to say Rhea Ripley wins just because, I guess, prove me wrong with the Flair thing, But the match will be good because they're good. It's just that this is like, how the hell is this not inside Hell in a Cell? And,
They had best match at the empty Performance Center WrestleMania. So we know that they can do, great work together. It's just, this has main roster stink all over it now. Mm-hmm. This entire feud has been Nikki Cross makes them look dumb, and we're supposed to laugh because Nikki Cross can last 2 minutes in a match. I like, that to me is more maddening than anything they're doing with Eva Marie. Because you're just going backwards, because you've apparently already gotten tired of the fact that women can tell good stories in the ring, and they don't need goofy bullshit to surround that. I don't know, that, dare I say, this is the match I'm least looking forward to, because at least the Alexa Bliss issue is a spectacle, and you're like, okay, well, what the fuck are they gonna do here? With this, it's just like, all right, are they gonna give it to Charlotte for a 15th? Would this be 15?
I don't know, actually.
14 or 15th time, let's see what happens.
That's crazy to like be like, I don't know if it's the 14th or 15th or 18th or 20th or whatever. Well, like Rob said, this has main roster stink all over it. And if you want to make sure that you don't have any kind of stink, let alone main roster stink all over you, then you might be interested in checking out our sponsors for this episode, Manscaped. As part of our partnership with Manscaped, if you go over to manscaped.com and you use the promo code SMARK, SMARK, just like the website, you will get not only free shipping, but you'll also get 20% off your order on anything that you order from the website. For instance, you can pick up their Performance Package 4.0, which offers you the Lawnmower 4.0 shaver, a thing we've talked about quite a bit in the past. You got the Weed Whacker for trimming up your nose hair. Just got that recently. Tried that out, and that's another thing that's been really good. You got the Crop Preserver and the Crop Reviver, so those two things are going to help out to make sure that you don't have that main roster stink. You get boxer briefs, which are very comfortable. You got the Shed Travel Bag, so it's a really good offer for the price that you get, and that price gets mitigated with that 20% off and free shipping code if you use that code SMARK over on Manscaped.com.
So the Weed Whacker, I love how quiet it is. Some of these shavers can be really noisy, and the Weed Whacker it's a nice hum, and you take care of your nose hair, your ear hair, you get that all out of the way really quickly, really effectively. Another thumbs up from Manscaped.
Yeah, it's one of the big issues of the fact that we can't help it. We just grow hair everywhere. And having the right tools for the job, which is what Manscaped, I think it's like the primary benefit of the Manscaped product is the fact that it will just deal with that unsightly hair, any part of your body, and just deals with it in a very efficient, comfortable way. Because again, like, these areas are sensitive. You don't want to just be sticking anything up your nose or in your ear or around the delicates, shall we say. Can't just go in with like a serrated knife or anything like that and hope for the best, really. So, fortunately, these are the
a serrated knife. Wow. If somebody is out there doing that, please pick up something from Manscaped for yourself. My God.
Yeah, absolutely. But I've actually one of the things I am a big fan of as well from the Manscaped is I really like their refined cologne as well. I think that's it's just have a nice shave in the morning. You just want to be smelling all nice and good for the day ahead, and I think that's a really nice, refreshing smell across it as well. So yeah, both your face and your balls can be treated pretty well with their range of cologne products.
That's right, because you gotta smell good. Because this main roster stink, we just can't have it. So thumbs up, Manscaped. Keep doing what you do.
Yeah, you want to make sure that you are much more refined than this pay-per-view is. So go ahead and pick up that cologne, pick up all the different products that you've got there, browse the catalog. You'll see a lot of different options that you can all use those promo codes for. And we want to thank Manscaped for sponsoring this. We want to thank you for showing your support by helping Manscaped and yourself out and helping us out in the process. So thank you for hearing us out. Thank you to Manscaped for sending us some of those products. And let's just go ahead and move along here. The next match of the card, Bianca Belaire versus Bayley. This is a match that has already happened, I think 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, I haven't been keeping solid count or anything like that, but it happened a couple of times in the build-up to WrestleMania, or the build-up to the Royal Rumble, should I say. And then Bianca took a bit of a break to deal with Sasha, and then, yeah, it's been Bayley ever since.
Not into it. I'm especially not into it being that the feud has apparently revolved recently about Bayley left. The fuck?
It's probably some sort of American reference I'm not getting. Is she meant to be lampooning some sort of person with how much she's laughing?
Well, not that I know of, Tony.
Nothing I'm aware of. I think she literally just started laughing and they thought that it was interesting that she was cackling.
Right, and yeah, and essentially the whole feud is built around. To be fair, I quite like the shot that they did of Bayley laughing from via satellite, and then her face just going all across the Thunderdome screens. I thought that was one of the best uses of the Thunderdome in recent memory.
Isn't that more of like an Alexa Bliss type of thing? Shouldn't it be though? Like she's the one with the
whole. Who cares?
whole.
It was funny.
But she uses like special powers, whereas Bayley just knows how television monitors work. So she just said, "Hey, can you get my face projected across all these things? Because it's a TV monitor and TV monitors can do that." And they said, "Oh yeah, sure," and then just did it. Whereas Alexa Bliss uses spooky magic to do it instead. It's complicated, Tony. And I don't imagine.
It's just stupid. Like to me, they're like, let's build a feud around she's laughing, and we'll have the whole like. I don't know, we'll incorporate the Thunderdome in that. And it's like, well, you're doing that with Bliss. Like, you're just kind of... That's it? That's all you're thinking of? Is just, she'll laugh and we'll put it on the screens?
Well, yeah, this is just like... Yeah, this is just a pretty basic level feud because essentially, I mean, the other thing about it is that it's Bianca Belair is the one that challenged Bayley to the match, even though she's already beaten Bayley and she's defended her title and thought, okay, I'll challenge you to a match and I'll also put my title on the line. And Bayley just go, sure. Just like, I think that, again, it's just not that again, these two are really good performers, so I don't want to take anything away from them again. Hopefully this will be a good match as well, but it's more indicative of the lack of depth in both women's rosters right now in terms of people that can actually compete for the title. Because realistically, on the SmackDown side of things, you've got Natalya and Tamina that are both the women's tag team champions, and so they're all supposedly occupied with those at the moment. And you've got Liv Morgan, you've got Carmella, and you've got Sasha Banks, and Sasha Banks is AWOL at the moment. And that's it. So, realistically, who else is Bianca going to face for the women's title except for Bayley?
And that's where I kind of go, like, to use a phrase I've been saying way too much for the past couple of years, it's not that hard. If this doesn't matter, and again, for anybody that's going to go, oh, you're saying that Bianca Belair and Bayley don't matter. No, they are great. But this is just a dead feud because it's happened and she's already beaten her and it's just dead. There's nothing to it. They didn't add anything to make it interesting. This doesn't even have the gimmick attached to it. It's not even a Hell in a Cell match. Not that it would have been good enough for it, but still, like, there's nothing other than do it again kind of a philosophy. But if we're going into this knowing Belair is not losing this title, and she's already beaten Bayley, and they've already had multiple matches, and there's no gimmick, and there's no stipulation, and there's nothing going for it, then you can do literally anything else, and it's going to be on par, if not better, just because maybe it would be different. So I would be like, if I would have been on the creative team, and somebody would have said something, 3 weeks ago and said, what do we do with the women's title for SmackDown? I would have been like, how about we have Liv Morgan challenge? And they'd go, well, yeah, she's not going to be believable to win. And we go, yeah, well, Bayley's not going to win either. How about we have Liv Morgan just go, you know what? My friend got fired. I'm sick of this. I'm going to put my, what's the phrase? The nose to the grind? That's right? Your ear to the grind? I don't know, whatever it was. Your head to the whatever. And I'm going to make something out of this because I keep talking about how I know myself now and I'm going to do something, and then I don't do anything for 2 fucking years. Fuck it. I'm going to go and I'm going to challenge the champion, and I'm going to try to prove that I can hang and that I can be a singles star and a champion. And then Belair can be like, all right, if you think that you want to challenge me for the championship, cool, I'll take it. And we can beat the crap out of each other in the ring and see who's best. And then Belair wins, but Liv Morgan looks good, and they shake hands, and people just go, all right, well, now we believe Liv a little bit more, and maybe down the line she wins the championship.
Because here's why. Last time they did this, it was with Bayley and Ember Moon at SummerSlam in 2019, and that did not work.
Now, is that because they just didn't follow it up?
No, it's because they had the whole build being Bayley feels bad for Ember, Bayley gives Ember a title match, and then Bayley wins, and then Ember hurts her.
You don't have Belair feel bad for Liv. You have Liv be like, I won a title match, and Belair goes, all right, well then earn it, and I'll give it to you. And then you could do the Carmella thing. Carmella could be like, no, I deserve to be the number one contender. I'm the next in line because I'm the prettiest. And Liv Morgan goes, fuck you, I'll beat you then. And then she beats her. And then Belair goes, all right, cool, you beat her. Like, let's have our match. You don't have to make it about like her feeling pity for her.
I don't think that they could pull it off.
I mean, that's a 4-week plan right there. It's Liv says the thing, cuts the promo on Belair. They schedule the match against Carmella for next week. She fights Carmella. She beats Carmella. The week afterward, we have a promo about Belair and Morgan, and then you have the match. Like, it's just kind of, Not that hard. Instead, it's just Bayley again. And yeah, Bayley's a bigger star than Liv Morgan is right now, but we've done it. Move on. Bring somebody over from Raw. Do something. Don't just copy and paste. Belair wins.
Belair wins, yeah.
It's like, there's nothing to it.
Yeah, there's not much to say about this match other than hopefully it's good and Bianca retains the championship. And let's see what they've got next.
If they've got anything next.
Well,
they've
I guess
got
they could,
Sasha for SummerSlam, I think.
I guess they could just. I guess they could arguably take a month off because, I mean, realistically, because of the amount of women they actually have on the roster right now, they're actually going to have to use all of them that aren't a champion right now to fight for the women's Money in the Bank. So,
what did they do last year?
They had a race up Titan
Well,
Harris.
I mean, I know for the Money in the Bank they had that dumbass match, but like, did the Raw and SmackDown Women's Championships get put on the line?
Well, no. Asuka won the belt through Money in the Bank because Becky was pregnant. And you should know very well what they did for this Bayley because I believe it was Tamina, right? That was the one where they're like, Tamina's actually going to win the title. Not really.
Yeah, I think that was the way they went about it that time.
Because it'd be weird if it'd be weird if they have fans in attendance and they don't put those titles on the line. But they don't have a whole lot of people on the roster. But then again, they can get away with a Money in the Bank match that only has like 5 people. So maybe
You're
they
overthinking
do.
it. They've got 7 on SmackDown, 9 on Raw. They can split it 4 and 4 and still have enough for title matches.
Oh, is that active people? Well, yeah. Let's put it this way. We know Asuka's going to be in the Money in the Bank.
Oh, I'm sorry I brought it up because honestly, who the fuck cares? Let's just move on.
I'm just like Rhea Ripley and the Charlotte Flair thing. We know one of them's going to win the title or retain the title, and if they just do another match between those two, that's a pain in the ass. So the only thing that makes any sense is maybe they bring the Nikki Cross thing back in around there, or maybe they jump straight to Eva Marie, or maybe they do Alexa Bliss or something. But there's not a whole lot of options for a title match on Raw.
Again, you're overthinking it. You know they're gonna pull something out of their ass.
Well, no, you're both overthinking it too. It's just going to be Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley again.
Well, that too.
So, and
probably.
Then unlikely on the SmackDown side again, it's probably going to be Bianca versus either Carmella or Bayley again. So I don't think we should even bother thinking about that sort of thing. Just wait and see what happens and find out what amazing way they managed to disappoint us again for the next pay-per-view, rather than speculate about it because it's just wasting breath.
Maybe it's a unique way, like how Braun Strowman was brought into WrestleMania.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's one thing that we know for sure: for the next 2 months, between Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, they're going to act like everything is awesome just because they're touring again. Whether they actually manage to live up to that remains to be seen.
They're going to do that, and they're also going to say, we don't have to put even this little amount of effort into it because fans are back. Money in the Bank's going to suck. Anyway, so Bianca retains. Roman Reigns retains. Rey Mysterio's like, you beat up my kid. I want a Hell in a Cell match. The hell? Come on.
I mean, at least, again, it's way too rushed and it shouldn't... based on the nature of the feud so far, it shouldn't be a Hell in a Cell, but at least, like, you know, Roman beat up his kid, so he should be upset about it and he should want a match for it. And the name of the pay-per-view coming up is Hell in a Cell, so he probably just got a light bulb moment and says, well, I want you inside Hell in a Cell because you beat up my kid, even though everyone's been beating up my kid because we're tag team champions and he's an actual wrestler as well, so why am I... But yeah, I think that we eventually need to get to a point, it's not right now, but we'll eventually have to get to a point where Rey has to stop fighting Dominic's battles for him.
They need to get to that point now. Because for some reason, not only are they doing this thing worse than they were doing last year with Rollins. Rollins wasn't even like, yeah, I'm going to commit child abuse. Like, they're acting like Dominic is 10 years old. and in the ring. Dominic carries Rey to the ring. I don't understand why they're just like, why they're like, baby Dominic, oh little thing Dominic, what?
Well, here's something that I want to bring up for this match more than anything else, really, and it's not even actually something to do with the match itself. It's the fact that there are at the moment only 5 matches on the card, and we've been told, similarly in reports before, or it's been thrown out in the atmosphere, that Roman Reigns only does the opening match and he does the main event because they're the 2 most important matches on any card. And realistically, the most likely scenario is that the main event is going to be Lashley versus McIntyre, which means this match is going to go on first.
Yeah.
And that means that I think Roman absolutely destroys Rey, and then we have a tag team title match.
And then the Usos win the titles?
Yep.
I think they're going to do that on Friday.
I think they'll do it. I think they'll do it on the pay-per-view.
See, I wouldn't mind something like that.
Because Roman has that pull. Because Roman has... I mean, the entire story is that Roman has the pull.
Yeah.
So he can do what he wants. And so he'll say, oh, why don't... maybe he'll keep beating up Rey in the cell for ages, and that will supposedly like rile up Dominic, and so he'll manage to bait Dominic into defending the tag titles on his own. And that's way it will go. I mean, they could say it for the next episode of SmackDown, but I think we're just over a week away from the Usos being tag champions.
I wouldn't mind a scenario like that, and this will kind of come off as like nitpicky because it's like, well, I wouldn't mind that, but this could be better. But like, I would think that could be the type of storyline that if you want to go in that direction, maybe you plan it out ahead of time and you don't spend the previous month doing Ziggler and Rude setting up Mysterios to have 1-on-2 matches, because then you already killed a lot of the handicap scenario. Like, I would have just, I mean, I don't know. We're talking about a scenario where I would have had the Mysterios win the belts at WrestleMania, maybe, the thing that makes the most fucking sense.
Yeah.
But then I wouldn't have called WrestleMania SmackDown and had nothing happen on it either. And I would have, taken 20 minutes to plan things out for the next month or something. But in an ideal scenario, you have the Mysterios win those belts at WrestleMania. They've held the championship in the meantime. They've had a rematch against the Dirty Dogs. They've fought Alpha Academy. They've retained against whoever else. I don't know. They don't really have a whole lot of other tag teams. And then you get to the point with the Usos, and you set up something like that. Since that didn't happen, I'd be cool with the idea of Roman setting that up and having the belts change hands like that. That'd be kind of cool. Either way, Roman's going to beat the shit out of Rey Mysterio. And they're going to have moments in there where Rey gets like a 619 in or whatever, and hopefully they don't make Roman look too weak. And then it's just like, all right, well, nobody thought that Rey stood a slight chance whatsoever, so kind of why are we doing it,
Well, I'll say this in defense of Rey. Rey is legitimately one of the, best legends of the more modern era. And the match he had with Brock Lesnar a couple years ago at Survivor Series, so much fun. So Rey is good in this underdog role. I think it could be a fun match. I just wish we had gotten some time to build.
Yeah, I think that's something that most people get on board with. This match, I think, will be good. It shouldn't go very long because Reigns should destroy him. And this is one of those scenarios where it can't be a case of Roman gets help from his cousins or anything like that. Roman should just, beat Rey Mysterio because Roman should beat Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And realistically, a lot of this stuff right now is in a big holding pattern because basically the only thing that's worth talking about for the next couple of months going forward seems to be Roman Reigns versus John Cena. So until that happens, it's just, Roman doing Roman stuff. And yeah, so there's really no jeopardy involved in this match. You just want it to be entertaining. You want it to be an entertaining murder, Rey Mysterio. And I'm kind of down for it. I just want to see Rey get killed.
It should be a lot of fun.
Not. I mean,
Yeah.
not killed, but
Yeah, destroyed in
No.
the ring.
I mean, do you think this is this has been some sort of last minute? Because again, the build up to this has been so quick. It's a last minute switch from their original plan, which would have been Roman versus Jimmy.
It kind of feels like it was, right? Because that makes sense to do the Jey Uso inside Hell in a Cell thing where Jimmy's involved, and eventually Jimmy's not doing the right thing, and he's not the right thing, but according to Roman, he's not doing the right thing. So then it would have made sense to have him beat the tar out of Jimmy and be like, now do you get it? I needed to beat this out of your brother, and I'm beating it out of you, and now you're beaten into submission. It should have been.
Yeah, I think it probably would have made more sense. They just decided to pivot at the last minute, maybe because they realised they have to do another pay-per-view before SummerSlam, and so maybe that's where we're going to get Roman versus Jimmy at Money in the Bank.
I think at that point you already kind of killed it. I think that they should have done the right thing at Money in the Bank.
Yeah, but they would have already lost. I guess you could go into that without being tag team champion, but yeah, I don't know what sort of plans they have for this going forward. But the weird thing is that this is the one guy and the one match where they should have plans for pretty much all the time, because it's the only thing in the company they really care about is whatever Roman's doing. So it seems odd that would be something that's just we've had a last minute switch. That seems to be like the last thing that you should be doing with Roman Reigns is mixing things up at the last minute. You should have a pretty clear, concise idea of pretty much what you're going to do week to week up until SummerSlam, and then whether he keeps hold of the title or he loses it to John Cena. That's basically your own decision at that point.
I think that the most logical course that they could have gone would have been Jimmy and Jay are having these arguments, and Roman Reigns is like, I gotta teach Jimmy a lesson. He teaches him that lesson at Hell in a Cell. The SmackDown afterward, he goes, all right, now that you're on board, get me those tag team titles, motherfuckers. And the Usos, they do whatever they need to do, hook or by crook. They beat Dominic and Rey on, the following SmackDown or whatever, stretch things out a little bit. And you get Dominic and Rey being like, hey, you jumped us backstage and this is bullshit and whatever. We want to have our rematch for the tag titles. We want to do whatever. Roman comes out, beats the crap out of Dominic and Rey. And Rey goes, you put your hands on my kid. You weren't even involved in the match. You know what? If you took those tag titles away from us, I'm going to take the Universal Championship away from you. And you get Rey and Roman in a regular singles match at Money in the Bank. And there you go. You got 2 months out of it instead of rushing it all in 2 weeks. Again, it's not that hard.
A lot of this podcast has been spent basically saying this is what we wish was happening.
Yeah.
At least
you got to put the proof out there when when people end up saying like, "Oh, could you do better?" Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll say this, I know Voices of Wrestling has been very vocal about how they feel that the Roman storyline isn't as strong as people say, and it's not as good as people say. And that's debatable, because obviously everything in this world is subjective. But I don't think it's subjective at all that, this storyline crushes everything else that the main roster is doing. This storyline at least has people excited to watch SmackDown. So kudos to them for that. I'm looking forward to it. What?
I mean, I subscribe to what the Voice of the Wrestling say. I think this feud is heavily... This whole storyline is so overrated, and it actually makes me not want to watch SmackDown.
Just the Tribal Chief in general, or this match?
No, because it's all just so repetitive. Just, legitimately, SmackDown is 1 hour of Roman Reigns and 1 hour of absolute shit, because the rest of SmackDown is just an absolute tidal wave of garbage. And then you just have the Roman Reigns stuff. And I'm saying the Roman Reigns stuff is better than the other hour amount of garbage that you have on SmackDown. But that's only because Roman is a very charismatic talker. But realistically, it's just repetitive. It's just Roman talking about how he's disappointed with the Usos and how he needs to protect his family lineage and how he puts food on the table and blah, 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 same thing. And then he beats up someone, or he just stands there and looks disappointed when one of the Usos gets beaten up. That's basically the entire thing, and that's been the way for about 6 months now. And I'm kind of done with it.
And I can understand
that's why I don't watch this shit. So
and I understand that, but through all that, you still said this is like heading.
It's better than anything on SmackDown.
But
Team RK Bro is the best thing on WWE TV right now.
I was just gonna say, I'll give you guys a guess what my favorite thing on Raw and SmackDown is right now.
Yeah.
Is it RK Bro?
It's RK Bro.
Yeah, that's the best thing on WWE TV right now.
Yeah, it's like far above my favorite thing. Like, I've been enjoying the Matt Riddle character. I know a lot of people haven't been, but I've been liking the whole, rambling nonsense and having his little back and forth with Randy Orton and stuff. I'm not digging as much the MVP trying to get into Kofi Kingston's head sort of thing, but maybe there's something there. But like, just, Riddle and Orton having some fun. I'm like, yeah, just give me more of that.
No, I've been really enjoying it because it's just like, I think Riddle's thing can go a bit over the top. You put a straight man next to him to basically soak up that stuff and keep it in check almost, and it works really, really well. Randy Orton, when he's motivated, is great, and he actually looks motivated for the first time in about half a year at this point, so that looks really good. And they've been having great matches with Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston because Xavier Woods can because Xavier Woods can have great matches with virtually everything, and it seems like him and Riddle in particular, just have absolute magic with each other.
How underrated is Xavier Woods?
Oh, he is I don't want to say like he's the man or anything like that, but he is just so unbelievably talented in the ring, and he's so great on the microphone. And he's such a great character. Again, it's just the issue with the fact that if he was Big E size, he would be a multi-time world champion probably by this point,
or a couple inches taller.
Well, yeah, even just that. But I still think Kofi. I mean, because the reason why Kofi got the world title thing is because he has the longevity and he got the story behind him. And I just think Big E will get it because he's got size and he's got a lot of charisma as well. I just think Woods is always going to be like the other guy in the group.
But as soon as E gets it, people are going to rally behind Woods. Okay, you need it.
All he wants to be is King of the Ring. So just give him King of the Ring.
I hope they give it to him.
Give him the King of the Ring.
That's all he wants. Yeah, that's all he will need for his career.
Now I'm sad for a completely different reason because we just gushed over RK Bro and New Day, and they're nowhere near this card.
Right.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know that's the disappointing thing. Like that's.
And you know what's even weirder about this? It's not like they can just add it at the last second anyway and have it not defeat the purpose of the promo that they had on Monday Night Raw, where MVP was like, "Oh, you don't have a match." If they just have the bump, yeah, they do. Then it'll be like, well, then why the hell did you write that in the Monday Night Raw? Like. Yeah, you gotta stop having this miscommunication thing. Talk to each other. You got different departments, just God.
And yeah, that's the same. Like, I know the thing that leads on for is the fact that I'm not as into the Roman Reigns storyline. I don't think the Roman Reigns stuff is bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just played out. It feels samey to me, and so it's difficult to get into as much. Maybe that will change when Cena gets involved again because they'll have to switch up the formula a little bit by that point. But and also due to the fact that with matches like this, especially the match against Mysterio, there's no jeopardy involved in the Reigns title reign. Mm-hmm. Like he is just going to hold, especially now you know that Cena is coming back probably around about SummerSlam time. There's realistically nothing that's going to prevent Reigns from dropping the title.
Money in the Bank. He should not wrestle at Money in the Bank because everybody already feels like, okay, just get to the Cena match.
Yeah, well,
and there's nobody for him to wrestle that would be worth 20 minutes.
Do a thing where he calls out John Cena.
Oh, they just have the promo segment on
have the promo at Money in the Bank.
Or do something where he calls out John Cena and John Cena isn't there at that point and he just stands in the ring and takes a count-out win or something like that. Then he can claim that he's beaten John Cena already and so he doesn't need to face him at SummerSlam, and then maybe you can build the feud around that. But yeah, either way, this match itself, the only thing that's going to be worth watching about it is just seeing how much Ray gets killed. I want to see how far he gets thrown from one into the ring, into the cell.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one spot. The thing where he slides on his belly, right?
Yeah.
And just lawn darts into the cage.
I mean, maybe this is just, again, a bit of a callous nature of me, but I kind of want to see Dominic gets thrown off the cell.
I'm here for it.
Do something fun. Like, I'm not expecting any cool spots for any of this.
Well, yeah, because if this match is, as we anticipated, to be the opener for this one, this has to be the quote-unquote weaker of the two, so it doesn't upstage the Lashley-McIntyre match, which I assume will have more of the big spots.
I'm fully expecting this to be a regular match that happens to be covered in a shitty cage.
Shitty red cage, yeah. Yeah, but no, I don't expect it to be a match, I expect it to be a murder. That's neither here nor there.
Murder.
So we're all going Rey Mysterio winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Put that officially on my... No, Roman. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Roman.
Thank God for my fantasy team.
And we got Bobby Lashley against Drew McIntyre. And if Drew McIntyre doesn't win this, he will no longer get a title shot as long as Bobby Lashley is champion. So there are actual stakes involved. They are probably medium well. And that makes it, like, again, this is a one-match card type of a deal where we've seen this match a couple of times and stuff, but at least there's something to it where it's, okay, McIntyre has a one-on-one match with no ability, so to speak, for MVP to get involved like he did at WrestleMania. There's no Braun Strowman that can take the pin. It's inside Hell in a Cell, so it's, if you don't have the clarity to realize that Hell in a Cell is not the same Hell in a Cell that it used to be because they don't do any of the same spots, and it's just, it doesn't matter as much, but you're at least trying to sell people on it, and it's not like it's just going to be, okay, well then if Drew McIntyre loses, he could just have another match against Bobby Lashley at I was going to say McIntyre in the Bank. At Money in the Bank. Then, okay, either he wins the title or he doesn't. If he doesn't, Bobby needs to move on to somebody else. If he does, then we get a new champion, and it's, well, where are they going with this kind of a thing? That actually serves a purpose. It's not good enough to, it just fills up the entire card and the rest of it doesn't matter type of a thing, but that is a pay-per-view match. I think Bobby Lashley retains.
You know what I like about this is it's hard to call. I think McIntyre gets it only because that damn storyline where they do the whole, well, you can never get a match for the belt if you lose this, seems to tip the hand. And they still kind of want McIntyre to be the guy, right? I gotta imagine there's a part of him that wants to be the champion when people officially come back. Maybe they give that to him here.
Yeah, I appreciate the jeopardy that's been thrown into this match with that stipulation. At least it's made it a little bit more enticing. And I enjoyed their match they had at WrestleMania, and this is kind of like the second big one-on-one match they've had since Lashley became champion. So it's not like it's been beaten over the head yet. So, and at the end of the day, if Lashley wins, then we don't have to see this match again. That's the weird thing about the stipulation, is that if McIntyre does win, we could have a rematch at Money in the Bank, because it's only if McIntyre loses that he doesn't get another opportunity. I think that this all really comes down to whether that Lesnar match is happening or not. Because if that Lesnar match is happening at SummerSlam, then you keep the title on Lashley and you just let it play out and you let that match happen. If not, then I guess there's really no harm in putting the title back on Drew McIntyre, because he's a babyface and maybe the crowd will get behind him when they're going back on the road. My bigger question is that if you are sticking with the title, keeping the title on Lashley, then how does McIntyre get screwed out of this? Because I presume that if McIntyre isn't keeping the championship, they must have some plan about who he's going to be feuding with next, because they're not going to have him drop off the face of the earth.
And now Bray Wyatt comes back.
Well, see, that's where I'm kind of questioning a lot of things, because if Lashley or McIntyre come out of this as champion, who's next to fight them?
Well, there's always Kofi.
Yeah, I think Kofi's a good choice for Lashley going forward. Even if that eventually ends up leading to a New Day heel turn and then aligning with Lashley, but we'll see how that pans out. But
that's the only thing that makes sense to me and that's if Lashley retains.
Yeah,
then and Kofi ends up having that match, and McIntyre moves on to somebody else. And McIntyre, in that regard too, this is a loophole. It's the whole, well, you don't get another chance at the championship, but if you win Money in the Bank, you do.
Oh yeah, so he could easily win Money in the Bank, but
not that I don't think he will, but I think like that gives him a chance to go into the Money in the Bank match, and McIntyre goes, I lost my opportunity, but I'm going to get one back by winning Money in the Bank. And McIntyre becomes one of the favorites to win Money in the Bank, along with whoever the hell else they end up putting in there. It doesn't really matter. But like, and I don't think that he wins it. But that's where I lean more towards Bobby Lashley, because the Lesnar thing, yeah, I don't know if the Lesnar thing's going to work, but that's the best possible marquee match you can do is Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. And that also factors a little bit into the Kofi Kingston thing, and it factors into, I guess you could, if you put the belt back on McIntyre, you could do Drew against Brock, but that doesn't have as much of a selling point as Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar. I don't know why I said it like that. Bobby Lashley, as if it's another Lashley. But that makes me go like, okay, well, then that's the case. But it kind of does make you go, well, how does McIntyre lose? Does he just flat out lose? Maybe he does.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be against McIntyre losing clean in this one, because that helps establish Lashley even stronger. And if you are building up to the match with Lesnar, then that's a good way of making him look as strong as possible. And then you have him face Kofi, you have him beat Kofi pretty easily at Money in the Bank, and then you're well on the course for doing that. I think that the way that they've handled McIntyre recently, though, suggests that they would do some sort of screw job finish to quote unquote protect him. And I don't want to be this guy that keeps bringing up like Jinder Mahal in the thought that, well, clearly they're going to do something with Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre eventually, because why not? But then they had Drew McIntyre come back for 2 weeks, and then he's just fucked off and done nothing ever since. It's like they don't have any plans for him unless the grand plan is, okay, we're just going to have him feud with McIntyre, so we've kept him off TV, and he's just going to surprise us by returning at Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, Jinder Mahal's music gets put on there, and then Drew McIntyre is, oh, well, I got to look around and whatever. Lashley, gets a pin in some fashion, even if he like low blows him or something, and then you get the Shanky and Veer.
Shanky can rip the door off the cage.
Can do something, or like maybe even have matches with McIntyre against Shanky and Veer in the meantime, and Jinder Mahal makes sense.
I'll just say this, because this only made sense to me when Drew is champion. People are overplaying, and yes, I know why, because they're going to do it. But 3MB was not that serious. That this is the one we're going to keep going back to, because we got to get this match in. We didn't do the 4 Horsewomen match because we had time for that one, but we're going to get this Jinder Mahal Drew McIntyre match in. That's really weird to me, but I do see that as a strong possibility.
Yeah, I don't want to see that happen because I'm so burnt out on distraction finishes. But especially if this is going to be the main event and it's supposed to be like the definitive, oh my god, if McIntyre loses, he's never getting a title shot. I'd rather he just lost clean. But yeah, I could easily see it just transition into a feud with Jinder Mahal. I mean, there are probably other heels on the Raw roster that you could slot into that thing. I think there's a good possibility that by the time SummerSlam rolls around, McIntyre's challenging Sheamus for the United States Championship. Because why not? But yeah, that seems to be the only real direction that I can go with at the moment, unless they just put the title back on McIntyre and then he feuds with the title with Mahal instead, or feuds with someone else.
I kind of think that McIntyre is going over to SmackDown in the draft.
there's a good possibility of the list. There's so many different connotations to consider, and realistically, they don't have a clue. So that's why I'm not really giving myself too much urgency to try and figure all this stuff out. I'm just going to say that Lashley retains because it seems to make the most sense in the moment.
Yeah, I am definitely leaning more towards Lashley.
Yep.
Rob picks Ivar.
I'll say Lashley as well. I thought I was unmuted.
No, it's locked in. You said Ivar.
Well, he's kind of cute.
Eric, not so
Not
much.
so much.
That's sad. That's one of the biggest takeaways from that.
Callum fucking hates us by now, so let's wrap this up.
By now, as if that hasn't already been the case.
I'd find it's more due to just the complete ineptitude of WWE more than you guys being dicks.
Well, that is so far what the card is, and of course, we're gonna hopefully learn more information about this by the time we get to the hot tags. But since we got this whole weird thing going on with Dynamite not being on Wednesday nights and all that, then we're not going to be doing the hot tags on Friday night after SmackDown. So we're not going to be able to update it with the SmackDown stuff. If we do learn more information in the meantime, then we'll cover that on the hot tags. If not, then we'll just have to wait and you'll get the updates up on smark.com because that will be updated as long as, we get information, because I'm not going to update it for a lack of information. But that'll all be up there in some fashion. The hot tags are coming up next in some fashion as well, whether we cover that or not. We'll talk about the different things that have happened recently on NXT, like with Samoa Joe. We'll talk about Diamond Mine is opening up next week. Talk about Eva Marie and Dewdrop and whatever else we run down there. But after that, of course, will end up being the Pay-Per-Viewpoint post-show for this, because Hell in a Cell's coming up this Sunday. So check out the coverage on smark.moment.com. Check out all the other things that I've got up there, any wrestling news and Bleacher Report and blah, blah, blah about this. And eventually join us for the live post-show reviewing the pay-per-view right after it's done. If you are subscribed to the YouTube channel and you set up those email notifications, you'll get an email when we do go live for that. And I'll also post something up on the Facebook group, the Mega Maniacs. So that'll have the link on there. And, then we'll run this down and we'll talk about what happened and whether or not it was more of a success than we thought, or, wow, that sucked like we expected, or whatever it might be, the pros and the cons, all the good stuff. So just kind of stay tuned. Keep paying attention to what's happening here. Follow all the things over at Smark Out Moment, at Smark Out Moment on Facebook and Twitter. Follow all the Fanboys Anonymous stuff as well. Click on that stuff. Click on the subscribe and notifications and follows and so on and so forth with that. Follow me at Tony Mango on social media. Follow Rob at Dude Felice.
Yeah, and check out everything going on at Fightful.com. There will be an interview with one of the names we just spoke about coming to the website before Hell in a Cell hits on Sunday, so check that out.
I have all right.
Totally all right. Check out everything going on at WrestleZone.com. I know Bill Pritchard just interviewed the former Alexander Wolf, who is now a free agent as of today. So very exciting things going on all across the wrestling globe. I will be here with Tony on Sunday because we're going to celebrate Hell in a Cell and how great it was. Callum?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14, smarkamomo.com for all of your wrestling needs, including all the weekly articles and the power rankings. So if you want to see who's on top of the power rankings for every given week, then that's the resource to check out. Other than that, if you're interested in listening to back in time when wrestling actually people actually gave a damn about wrestling, then listen to
matches meant something back in those days.
Yeah, then listen to 2001 Wrestling Odyssey or the Paul Heyman SmackDown podcast, and hopefully we'll be putting together some more retro-themed content in the future because, god damn it, it's so much more fun to talk about that than the stuff nowadays. But yeah, that's the resource that you can keep going back to. It's evergreen content, so make sure you keep checking it out.
Alrighty, everybody. That is what's happening next. Next week, past this point, we don't really have a game plan. That'll be episode number 499, and it's currently a blank week. And then we've got episode 500, which is currently still kind of up in the air about what we're going to do for that. So if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see going forward for these weeks, then drop them in the comments below and give us your thoughts, and we'll kind of factor that all in there. I'm thinking more along the lines of next week just having like a regular gimmick. I don't know exactly what, but maybe like top rope list or superstar scores or something along those lines. We do have a mailbag eventually coming up, so I don't want to do something like just push that up. Maybe we do a Mount Rushmore if anybody has an idea for what to do with that. Maybe we do something based off of that quick turnaround tournament thing, or I don't know. Wrestling is 2020. Wrestling with the past. We got options, so tell us what you'd like to see, and we'll, try to see what we can do. But whatever is happening, the fact that you are listening to it is greatly appreciated. Thank you for listening to this episode. Thank you for all your support, and we will see you next time. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.